Hello, and welcome to Jekyll and Hyde Task 10. Let's start by rereading the extract that the task is based upon. But for all that, continued the lawyer, there's one point I want to ask. I want to ask the name of that man who walked over the child. Well, said Mr. Enfield, I can't see what harm it would do. It was a man of the name of Hyde. Said Mr. Utterson. What sort of man is he to see? He is not easy to describe. There is something wrong with his appearance, something displeasing, something downright detestable. I never saw a man so disliked, and yet I scarce know why. He must be deformed somewhere. He gives a strong feeling of deformity, although I couldn't specify the point. He's an extraordinary-looking man, and yet I really can name nothing out of the way. No, sir, I can make no hand of it. I can't describe it. And it's not want of memory, for I declare I can see him at this moment. Mr. Utterson again walked some way in silence, and obviously under a weight of consideration. You are sure he used a key? He inquired at last. My dear sir, began Enfield, surprised out of himself. Yes, I know, said Utterson. I know it must seem strange. The fact is, if I do not ask you the name of the other party, it is because I know it already. You see, Richard, your tale has gone home. If you have been inexact in any point, you had better correct it. I think you might have warned me, returned the other with a touch of sullenness. But I have been pedantically exact, as you call it. The fellow had a key, and what's more, he has it still. I saw him use it not a week ago. Mr. Utterson sighed deeply, but said never a word, and the young man presently resumed. Here is another lesson to say nothing, said he. I am ashamed of my long tongue. Let us make a bargain never to refer to this again. With all my heart, said the lawyer. I shake hands on that, Richard. So firstly, we look at some of the possibly difficult vocabulary in that extract. Detestable means something that is hated. So Hyde is described as instantly causing people to hate him just by looking at him. Deformed or deformity is not having a normal or natural shape. He can't say why he feels that Hyde is deformed, but he gets a sense of it. Enfield is described as being surprised out of himself. He is so surprised by Utterson's question it makes him feel suddenly more aware of the importance of what has been said. Has he told Utterson something more important than just an interesting story? Utterson tells him your tale has gone home. The story has had a big impact on Utterson because it links to something or someone he already knows. This creates a sullenness in Richard Enfield. He's irritated, in a bit of a bad mood, because he didn't mean to give away something about anybody in particular. When he says he describes his story in pedantically, it means in exact detail. No little details missed out. And finally, he says that he is ashamed of my long tongue. Enfield is sorry to have gossiped too much. He regrets telling the story now at all. So, the first question you're asked is, why do you think the man is so difficult to describe, despite making people hate him on instinct? And the second question, what do you think makes him appear deformed, even though he has no obvious physical deformity? I think both of these questions can be taken at the same time, really. When describing the fact that Hyde is ugly and deformed and easy to hate, Enfield repeatedly says that he doesn't know why that's the case. He can't justify it. He says, I scarce know why. I couldn't specify the point. I really can name nothing out of the way, and I can't describe him, even though he can see him in his mind's eye exactly. So despite telling Utterson that Hyde is so ugly and deformed that to see him is to instantly hate him, Enfield can't put his finger on why. What is it about his face or body that creates this reaction? Perhaps the answer to both questions is that the evil of his character simply shines through in some way that's impossible to define or describe. This links to context, which you need to do throughout this exam. Judging people by appearance. At the time, many Victorians believed that you could judge a person's character by how they look. They had whole systems dedicated to it, created by so-called scientists of a pseudoscience called physiognomy, such as Lombroso, that's the name of the scientist. To find out more, by all means follow this link or look it up yourself. It's a science that has gained some credence at other times in history as well. The Nazis and the Hitler used it a lot. It was used in earlier times too, and you've probably seen those skulls with the different bumps on it, which are kind of linked to this idea too. The idea is that by looking at someone's shape of their eyes or their brow or their ears or their chin even, you can judge whether they are a good person or a particular type of criminal. Question 3. Why do you think Enfield and Utterson decide never to speak about this again? How does this reflect the gentleman's code? This third question links back to the context you looked at in the early parts of the booklet. Look back at Task 2, Double Lives and the Reputation Obsession. To talk of the issue further might lead to the revelation of the name of who signed the cheque, who it is that knows Hyde and is protecting him for some reason, even though he's clearly a terrible person. They both know who it is. Enfield because he saw the name signed on the cheque, and Utterson because he knows whose door that is, whose house it leads to. But they don't want to openly discuss it. That might lead them to question that gentleman's behaviour, and neither of them want to question another gentleman's behaviour or reputation. Enfield in particular is not keen for people starting asking questions about his own life as a man about town himself. He's coming home at the dead of night from somewhere at the other end of the world. He says, no, he has been up to something that he doesn't particularly want to put his finger on himself. And Utterson likes to be the soul of discretion. He doesn't like to pry into other people's secrets, in other words. He doesn't like to gossip about things that he already knows about people. And that's the end of this particular webinar. I hope you can now answer those questions for your teacher. Thank you.